Good evening. I call the regular meeting of the Ames City Council for Tuesday, June 22nd to order. Good evening, Council. Good evening, those in the audience. We are working from an amended agenda this evening. There's been an item that's been added requested from Mucky Duck for a new 5-day Class C liquor license, and also regarding for service at Ryman Gardens. So with that, under consent, does the council want to pull any items this evening?
I'd like to pull item 6D. I need to abstain.
6B?
D.
D, I'm sorry. Thank you.
And Mayor, I'd like to pull item 18, please.
All right. Anything else? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve consent less item 6D and item 18.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Brown,
I just need to abstain from 6D.
Move to approve 6D, the liquor license for Wheatsfield.
Second.
all right. Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Aye.
Thank you. Gloria.
I pulled item 18 because it's time once again for talking about homecoming activities. And I know this one does not include the fireworks, which is going to come to us in the future, but I wanted to be sure that we mention that. And I believe we have a representative here who maybe could speak to what's being done to notify the citizens about the events and the fireworks, and whether anyone has talked to the Veterans Center director who's new about this.
And if she hasn't or is not prepared to talk about that, is it okay for her to come back at a later time and talk about that?
Yes, and this, just to provide some context, this is because we have had complaints in the past about veterans not expecting fireworks at that time of the year, and some people have PTSD and it has affected them. And so I've asked traditionally that the Veterans Center director be contacted to discuss this, and we do have a new incoming director for the Veterans Center this year. So
Okay.
I would just like to have that discussed and perhaps something added to the information for the neighborhood, letting the neighbors know. And I think there is notification on other things like excitement in the streets.
Certainly. Please come up. Do you want to introduce yourself, first and last name and your address, and you're prepared to answer the question, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Carly Ron. I'm one of the homecoming directors this year. I live at 715 Lynn Ave, 50014, if that matters.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I absolutely know that me and both my co-director would have no problem reaching out to them, doing that outreach. We can even put together kind of an outreach plan for you if you'd like, just to detail what steps we plan to take, because I know that we are really this year kind of trying to be strong on like community outreach because we know homecoming didn't happen. We're hoping for it to be bigger and better than ever. So I'd be more than glad to put together an outreach plan for you if that would be sufficient to what you're looking for.
I would love to have that, and primarily because I think if there's a plan developed now, it can be something that's done every year, and then I don't have to have this item pulled because we know what the outreach is.
Yeah, that absolutely sounds great to me.
And specifically, the fireworks are not part of this item tonight, so I don't have a problem with this item tonight. I just thought it was an opportunity to bring that up.
I believe the fireworks are in July, so I can try to work with our PR to put together that plan before that meeting for you guys.
Great, thank you very much.
Yep,
Thanks for your efforts, and we're glad that homecoming is coming back to life again.
Yes, we are very excited about it. So everybody mark your calendars.
We're going to be
So while you're
excited.
up here, why don't you go ahead and take a minute and just talk about what's going on and when it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we start homecoming the week before, kind of, with getting our Yell Like Hell started, one of Iowa State's biggest traditions. So we're running that this year. We're doing a lot of outreach to groups outside of the Greek community, trying to get even more Iowa State students involved in that. We're also going to be doing like our normal pep rally, which will feature a lot of Iowa State athletic teams and coaches, which I know everyone's super excited for. We have a lot of tournaments going on for Greek members and non-Greek members. So that will be great. I'm trying to think. We have the parade, which is in downtown Ames, which was being approved tonight, as well as excitement in the streets. So those are really great events for the community to attend. And also just a subtle plug that if you have a business and you want to be in the parade, that will be coming out later this fall, and it will be on our social media. So we'd love to have any and all businesses in the parade.
And when is the parade?
That is the Sunday before homecoming. So I believe it's the 16th, if that is right on my mind.
It's the 17th on our agenda,
Oh,
so.
yes, the 17th. It's the Sunday.
Yep.
The dates they get a little tricky, but
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
yeah, thank you guys.
So I would move approval of item 18.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right. Open up public forum this evening, and this is time we set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. I ask each person who addresses council under a public forum to limit their comments to 3 minutes or less, and also make sure that it is related to city business. I have one card this evening from Richard Dio. Richard?
When COVID happened, I was given a notice by the Ames Police Department signed by Jeff Hoff and Judy Saxton that I couldn't be at the door opening the door for people because it's like you have to be 6 feet from people and not 3 feet from people. And it's like I was told at the time that it would, based on the things of what COVID was over, you know, I haven't gone back there because it's like, I don't know whether I can. You know, I mean, I remember taking an oath of office from our previous mayor about being a doorman. You know, and it's like Mayor Campbell had me raise up my hand and on 10 degrees below zero one January day and had me swear to be a doorman for City Hall. And, you know, I repeated the words after her and you know, I never got along very well with her, and I don't think she got along very well with me.
Richard, if your question isn't regarding what Julie
I
Saxton.
feel it would be more appropriate to speak at council comments for this thing than public forum. And I've often asked, let me speak at council comments at the end of the meeting. And I've stayed to the end of the meeting several times, and it's like I'm very much opposed to a lot of the laws, and they're not just the local laws, the city of Ames, but the state and the national laws. And it's like, I mean, not just laws, but I mean, just mores of society in general. It's like I have a button that says, can I do everything in my power to make you happy? I've gotten another button that says, we are one human family, please be part of us. And I'm a crazy person. I've been in the psychiatric unit since I was 4 years old.
Richard, it's limited to city business. I think you've made your point about being a doorman, so thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close public forum and move on to item number 36, consideration for initiating an application for voluntary annexation of property located along North 500th Avenue. Kelly?
Good evening, City Council. Tonight we have in front of you a request to initiate annexation of about 28 acres of land. It was applied for as one parcel, which is outlined in turquoise on the screen in front of you, as a 100% voluntary annexation. And per City Council policy, once someone has filed a petition, we bring it before the City Council to get direction on whether to initiate the application or whether to consider other options for annexation. In this case, the annexation itself is going to be consistent with our current land use policy plan. We've identified this area for expansion of the city, and it will fit within the plans of the city for infrastructure extensions and also for residential development. So the question before the council tonight is whether to proceed as requested with a 100% voluntary annexation, to consider adding additional properties, which we have identified along County Line Road, which is the west side of this property, in order to make more uniform boundaries. So state law allows us to add what are called non-consenting properties to make more uniform boundaries, and staff believes that could be done and meet that standard along County Line Road. Another option that we outlined is there is other land in this area that we would see in the future probably being annexed to the city. And city staff has said that we could reach out to these other adjacent property owners and see what the interest for annexation is, to see if there's more land that could be added, and see really what the interest is around this area at this time. So with those three options, staff is recommending to have the ability to reach out to the adjacent property owners and report back to City Council what the feelings are of these property owners before you make a decision on whether to proceed with this annexation application or to consider other options for 80/20, most likely with the properties along County Line Road.
Questions for Kelly?
Kelly, can you identify where you would plan to do outreach on this map?
So we would send it to probably all of these properties. Even this doesn't abut this property. We would include these three properties. You can't see this, but there's a narrow little band of property that connects down to this piece here, and then you have these two property owners out front. So it'd be about 5 property owners. It's about 7 total properties of who we would reach out to if that's what is in the interest of the council.
Other questions? Okay, we'll open up public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to address council on this particular topic tonight?
Well, good evening, everybody. Justin Dodge, Hunziker Companies, 105 South 16th Street. Hopefully you all received my email yesterday stating that I had reached out to Dick Hall as well as David Junk. Both of those property owners asked to be left alone in the county, and they said that I was authorized to convey that message to you guys. We did not reach out to, I think it's McDormand, Sands, or Allemans about an annexation, but it's our goal to bring this land into the city, 100% voluntary, so that way we're not forcing anyone else in. Obviously, the other parcels on the north could come in anytime they wanted to. And in the staff report, they only talked about Junk and Hall. So that's why we had only reached out to those two property owners. But if you've been by County Line Road lately, we are filling out Sunset Ridge. And so we'll be finishing out the rest of those lots this year and making those available to builders. Building has continued on throughout the pandemic. We did not skip a beat whatsoever. And so we're looking towards this land as an extension of more single-family detached homes, very similar to what's in Sunset Ridge. And so I'd like to get that process going. As you all know, it takes many years and a lot of steps. So we'd like to start in on that process without delay. So happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we'll close public input. Council. Good.
I'd move alternative 3
Which is?
to defer taking actions. Their staff could reach out to neighboring property owners, engage their interest.
Second.
And I appreciate that you reached out to a few, although I think if staff want to go that route and check with the other properties, that seems reasonable. So I'd like to give them the chance to do that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining?
Abstain, conflict.
All right, motion carried. Thank you.
All right, so with that, just so you know, we would aim to bring that back by the end of July. Give us a little bit of time over the holiday of July 4th to reach out and be back to you.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, moving on to item 37, hearing on Prairie View Industrial Center Utility Extension Project.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, this project will extend sanitary sewer and water main infrastructure along East Lincoln Way. The base bid is to extend it to 580th Street, which the new name is Teller. Is that correct? And the add alternate number 1 would be to extend it approximately another mile farther east to 590th, which is Potter. So when we received the bids, staff analyzed the bids, analyzed the bidding environment that we have with the unusual situation that's been caused through the COVID pandemic. And our staff recommendation would be just to award the project as the base bid, which will extend infrastructure, as I said, out to 580th or Teller Avenue. And just wanted to note from a budget standpoint in the council action form, the funding that's noted is the available funding, particularly from the GEO bond standpoint, the available funding as we move forward. And Tracy has just kind of as a FYI from the bigger picture of the budget and previous work that's been done standpoint, done some looking into the previous budget and what we have accomplished to date. So the total bonds that have been issued for this project were 5.3 million. And then through our consulting fees with Stanley Consultants, our internal fee reimbursements, and then the land acquisition activities, we have approximately 4.6 million in bonds available. And just to be on the conservative side, that's why in the council action form, we've noted 4.3 million. That's what we noted to the EDA when we applied for our grant. So as noted in the council action form, the funding that we have is 4.3 million in geo bonds and 1.5 in EDA grant. So to look at the funds that are needed to award the base bid, as well as the engineering and administration to finish the project out, we'd be looking at taking another 900,000 from the American Rescue Plan. So those funds were recently distributed to us from the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury. That's part of the American Rescue Plan Act. And we've received approximately half of our allocation. We've received about 7 million, and we'll receive approximately another 7 million sometime around May of next year for a little over 14 million as a total. So you'll be hearing more about that, but in general, the purpose of that act is to backfill lost revenues that have occurred during and because of the pandemic. And then the remainder can be used on water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So staff will look at the projects that could be accomplished through that funding. We'll brainstorm and prioritize those projects and then be meeting with you early fall to show you the list that we looked at and the priorities that we're recommending. But to get this project going, we're recommending of that 14 million, approximately 11 to 12 million will be available for projects. So we're looking at just taking the first 900,000 from that pool to fund this utility extension project.
Any questions for John or Tracy?
So, John, if we were to pay for this on our own without reaching into those funds, could you speak to us about the impact on our borrowing capacity?
Well, we would first look for bond savings, so unallocated bonds. However, these funds, these ARP funds, the rescue plan funds, are specifically for water and sewer and broadband. So this would be a perfect use for those funds. Whereas if we were to use geo bond savings, those funds could be used on a wider range of projects. So if we keep the geo bond savings, we'd be able to utilize that on different types of projects, accomplish different things with that savings, rather than just specifically the water and the sewer that this rescue plan money can be used for.
And I appreciate that, but we have the resources to do this project without the federal funds. Is that correct?
We're close. I believe it was 1 or 2 meetings ago, we changed had council change the description on previously issued bonds to include this use. So we had identified bond savings, I think, of 775,000 through that action that we could use on this project. But that doesn't quite get us up to the 900,000 that we're proposing, which would include contingency.
We're positioning you with more flexibility in the future. I don't anticipate that the bidding climate is going to correct itself in the near future. So by freeing up those general obligation bonds, we'll have more flexibility to use it for probably bids that will come in higher than we budgeted for streets or some of the other kind of projects we have, which we wouldn't be able to use these funds for. So you're looking ahead. We're preparing ourselves to react to what we think is an unfavorable bidding climate in the next few months. So I think it's a wise course of action to take.
I think that if you start with the premise that these funds should be available for us to spend, I think the staff proposal makes an enormous amount of sense. I'm very supportive of the project. My reservation is only that I have strong reservations about the federal budget and our federal government's ability to write checks like this. We didn't ask for this 14 million, and all of a sudden it just appears. And this is an unsustainable course. So I'm torn between my duties to the city. I want to see this project go. I love the project. I'm extremely supportive of this, but I'm torn because I think this is an unsustainable thing for our federal government. So my preference would be is to send the money back. I know that sounds crazy, but I think that would be the responsible thing to do is tell them, thank you very much, but you can't afford to send us this money, and we pay for it ourselves. That's the full extent I want to say on this. So there'll probably be votes to make this go, but I wanted to express my concerns about the propriety of taking money from a government that doesn't have it. Thanks.
Other questions or comments? All right, declare the public hearing on the Prairie View Industrial Center Utility Extension Project to be open, including both the resolution on using Rescue Fund Plan Act funds and also the project being awarded. Is there anyone that wants to address council this evening under public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Entertain a motion on resolution authorizing the use of American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARP funds, in the amount of $900,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plan specifications and awarding the contract to Keller Excavating of Boone, Iowa, in the amount of $6,168,791.40, contingent upon acceptance by Economic Development Administration.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 38, hearing on 2018-19 Main Street pavers, Burnett to Kellogg.
Thank you. So this project continues the replacement of the Main Street pavers. We've accomplished one block from Clark to Burnett. And in this package, we bid the remaining 3 blocks. We bid Burnett to Kellogg as the base and then added Kellogg to Douglas and Douglas to Duff as add alternates. We also set it up to just buy materials for those last 2 blocks as standalone add alternates, depending on how the bids came in based on the budget. The issue that we were having when we started the first phase from Clark to Burnett was the existing pavers have a concrete setting base underneath, and we intended to utilize that base. However, when we got the old pavers off, we found that the concrete base that we wanted to reutilize was basically powder in many locations. So that's driven the project work and costs up beyond what we had originally anticipated. So that's why with the money we have budgeted, we're recommending that we award the base bid project, which would continue the replacement, again, from Burnett to Kellogg. And we also have sufficient funds to buy the paver materials for the remaining 2 blocks. And that will assure a color uniformity and conformity when we move forward and rebid the installation of those last 2 blocks. So in order to do that, we would include the installation of those 2 blocks. Again, we'd have the materials. So it's just the installation in the proposed CIP that we'll bring to you this fall. And if you choose to approve that, then we, about this time of year next year, would bid the installation of those last 2 blocks and then hopefully have those installed by late summer of next year.
Questions?
Why did the concrete base crumble, or do we need to worry about that happening again?
Yeah, we think it's mainly due to overuse of de-icing chemicals.
Oh,
So with this project and following installation, we're going to do a public education campaign with the businesses and the snow removal and contractors that do the de-icing. And through that public education, we hope that people will then be more compliant, more mindful and thoughtful about the amount of chemicals that they're using. Not only is it hard on the infrastructure that's there and causes accelerated deterioration, it's also hard on the environment. And as Tracy had mentioned, that's part of what's in our stormwater permit. So we're going to do an education campaign in partnership with the chamber and with Ames Main Street. Hopefully that that educational effort will work out. If not, then we'll have to come back to city council with other options on maybe more hard methods of limiting those chemicals.
Do I remember something about like an experimental heated concrete? Do you remember we were thinking about doing something?
We were talking about it on Welch Avenue.
Yeah.
And it was a group with Iowa State who was working to develop the technology. And we continued to pursue it, and we didn't get kind of a response as far as commercial installation or, mass installation of the technology yet.
Sure.
So we didn't do it on Welch, but that's where we were pursuing it, if you may recall.
I see. I just didn't know if that was a thing and if this would be an application where it might cut down on that type of issue, but maybe we don't have the time to, if it's, I suppose to.
Yeah, it was an electric system because what is out there in other places is more of a water looping system. And so if you have a gas service to one business that needs to cut through, then it compromises the whole system. Whereas this is an electronic system that you can patch and work. So, I mean, it sounded promising, but I don't know where they are as far as the reproduction.
Okay.
John, is the kind of educational program that you might be working on with the chamber something that could be scaled up for the entire community if we wanted to try and get people to use fewer de-icers on their own sidewalks?
We already do with our stormwater program, and we reach out to the landscape companies. So it's already part of our MS4 stormwater program, because that's really where you see it. You see the chlorides in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can continue to step up on doing that, as John said, with the literature community-wide and putting articles out and Facebook posts, and we do those types of education components all the time about picking up pet waste or composting or.
So it's
trash
not any
pickup.
different than
And
what
so
we're
it's-
already doing.
Right.
Really. But
We can hit that theme again harder. We do things in seasons because you don't want to do it in the summer when they're not even caring about winter maintenance. So as we get closer to the fall, we can make sure that there's an article and Facebook posts and such.
Yeah, and that's what we would play off of to develop something specific for this setting.
I have a question. This might be a different project, but when we took down the wall at Tom Evans Plaza, there was discussion of needing to put bollards up for safety purposes where the wall was, or approximately there. I sort of thought maybe that would appear during the repaving, replacement of the pavers, but I don't see anything yet. What's the status of that? Is that still underway?
Yeah, I think those bollards will be part of the larger streetscaping effort on Main Street in the context of those seem to be a hot mic and now there's no mic. In the context of the planters and the other streetscape items. There's been a curb that's installed, so that provides a little bit of a safety measure there where the wall used to be. So we'll be looking at those bollards along with the other items.
Thanks.
Are bike racks part of that, the other items? Because there's one by the US Bank there, I think, and that got taken out.
Yeah, and there were bike racks on the eastern end also. So yeah, I would think that we'd be looking at how we can replace those in a way that matches what's out there.
Any other questions? All right, I declare the public hearing on the 2018-2019 Main Street paver project, Burnett to Kellogg, to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this item? Seeing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on resolution approving final plans, specifications, and awarding the contract to Construct Incorporated of Ames, Iowa, in the amount of $367,620 for base bid plus alternates 3 and 4.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 39, hearing on granting easement to Interstate Power and Light for a gas pipeline from the right-of-way at intersection of East 13th and Maxwell South for 40 feet. Hi, Keith.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So the easement is from Iowa Power and Light on the corner of 13th and Maxwell. The area that they want or have requested for an easement, it's 3 foot by 40 foot, so 120 square feet. It's just on the east side of the right-of-way. They already do have an underground gas line there and just getting ready for some improvements that are going to be coming up on 13th Street. They want to put in a new underground gas line, and that's what they need the easement for. So it is the easement is for underground pipe only. They cannot put anything above ground, and there's nothing there that we have right now and no plans for that area. We do have a fence to the cemetery, which is further to the east, and this does not interfere with that. So staff's recommendation is for alternative one to grant the easement.
Questions for Keith? All right, declare the public hearing on granting an easement to Interstate Power and Light for gas pipeline in the subject area to be open. Is there anyone that wants to address council on this topic? Seeing none, declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on resolution granting easement.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Moving on to item 40, first. Thank you, Keith. Moving on to item 40, first passage of ordinance regarding Chapter 23 subdivision text amendments. Any questions for staff? Kelly, do you have any comments you wish to make tonight?
I don't plan to go through it all, just reinforcing that you gave us direction in April to address some Chapter 23 updates, which is what's on the table tonight. And there's also some accompanying Chapter 29 changes that we have not yet addressed that will be coming later this summer. For the most part, I would say the significant changes here are that you're giving staff some approval authority over the plat of survey for boundary line adjustments and conveyance parcels. Overall, we're simplifying some of the steps in the process. We think it's pretty much customer beneficial for saving them time, and really no discretion is being lost by the city, and no new standards are actually being created that would be harder to approve something or make some new requirement that's not already been a practice of the city.
Questions for Kelly? All right, I'll open up public comment on this item. Does anyone wish to address council on this item before we take an action on first passage of ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. There's no further questions. Entertain a motion on first passage.
Move on first.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. And as noted, the staff is interested in whether council be willing to suspend the rules tonight and adopt both the second, hold the second and third passage tonight and also adopt the ordinance.
That's going to take a lot of time tonight. I don't know if we have time.
We'll try and fit it in.
Move to suspend the rules and adopt the ordinance as soon as possible.
Second.
Okay.
You need to speak slower.
Roll-
Stand in the meeting.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Hey, Mark, I'm going to make sure that I get this procedurally correct. It's my understanding that based on a memo we received from you, we can go ahead and just have a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is that correct? Yes. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Just do.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry to deprive you of a couple opportunities to vote. But... All right. Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Moving on, disposition of communications to council. Maybe you can wait there for a second, Kelly, in case there's any questions. We have three tonight. One is a letter from Natalie C. Curran project architect for SBA Architects regarding land use policy plan amendment for a property located at 1621 Wilson, which is the old Ames School District maintenance facility site up there on Wilson.
We can give you a memo on that if you like.
I'd move for a memo from staff on this one.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Carried, thank you. Second letter from Els T. Cackler and Elizabeth A. Cackler. Proposed 3-lot subdivision, 4909 West 190th Street.
This might be a little problematic. Kelly could give you 30 seconds on why this might be a problem for us.
They've given you a long letter kind of outlining the situation. So in the fringe plan, I believe all of their property or almost all of their property is in a natural area designation, which by the fringe plan, we don't allow divisions. So they're requesting, they're explaining that situation, asking if you would consider options for them to pursue dividing their property.
So it changed the fringe area plan.
I don't have an exact answer of what that would mean or be. I don't think we would change the whole fringe plan to allow for one subdivision, but if there's other options that the county would accept, I'm not sure.
So do you want us to work on that or not? Or get a memo back or spend time on it now?
Would there be, is it, if we asked for a memo, you would have something to say in addition to all the material that's been presented to us?
We would review it and tell you where we stand and where the county stands on the project.
I am interested in hearing where the county stands on this because I think their inclination is meaningful. So I'd move for a memo.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
And specifically, which is a little unique, you would like us to reach out to the county and make sure we understand their position on whether to proceed with it.
Yes, and of course, yes, and would like to know what your attitude towards it as well is.
Okay.
Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Conflict. Abstain.
All right, record show 501. Thank you. And last is a memo from Kelly on the request for text amendment for the Ansley Ames development. And it's my understanding, the recommendation is that the council wants to consider this, it should be placed on a future agenda for discussion.
I would move we put this on a future agenda.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carried. Thanks, Kelly. All right, council comments. Rachel, we'll start with you tonight.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
All right, Amber?
Nothing for me.
David?
No, sir.
Colin?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Trevor?
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
Gloria?
I am going to be giving a lecture for the Ames History Museum lecture series next Wednesday on the history of people of color in Ames up to 1940, which is a very, very large topic for an hour presentation. So it's a 35,000-foot flyover of the issues. And I would love to have community members and city council members attend to get some sense of where we've come from in our efforts to forge one community.
Will that be taped?
What's that?
Will that be recorded?
I believe it's going to be recorded and made available on the Ames History Museum YouTube site, but I haven't confirmed that. That's what they have done with their other presentations. And for those who are interested, our member of our Ames Human Relations Commission, Wayne Clinton, has also spoken on his history as a person of color in the community, and that is available on the History Museum's YouTube site.
Next Wednesday, when and where?
Next Wednesday via Zoom at 7 p.m. And to get that link, you go to the Facebook page for the History Museum and request the registration link. They're trying to chart how many people attend these so that they can make a request in the future for City of Ames funding showing their impact of the lecture series. So thank you, that's it.
Tim?
So I've sent the council a proposal to have a workshop dealing with the bike infrastructure of the community. As we approach the budget and CIP recommendations, I think it'd be helpful and to my recollection, we've not done this before. We've sort of opened up to have a broad conversation about where we're investing in our bike infrastructure. And so a couple of the topics that I think would be helpful to include in this would be a brief overview of our existing trail system and how we partner with Iowa State on the institutional trails. Secondly, review of the complete streets plan and how we maintain the trails. Third, the possibility of using eminent domain for filling gaps in the system. Fourth, the current CIP project for trails. And then fifth, the county's efforts to connect Ames with the High Trestle Trail. So I would encourage the staff to reach out specifically to our partners with the Ames Bicycle Coalition and Team Velo, but also Iowa State and the Ames Public Schools because of their utilization of our trail system. So I think it'd be fun to get sort of a broad level of input on our trail system.
So I have a comment here. This,
There a second.
I'm sorry, was that the motion?
That's a motion.
To have a workshop. Got it.
Yes.
I'll
There a
second.
All right, thanks. So yeah, my comment on this is I support improving the bike infrastructure, but the way you've described it, it kind of sounds like an information push event rather than something that council would actually be making decisions upon. And so I'm wondering, is there any demand? And I don't mean like we demand, I mean sort of, is there any interest from the other organizations in getting council's attention because there's something that they need us to understand that we don't currently understand?
I don't know. So I think you're quite right in the way you read this, that there's both an informational aspect. I think the community is genuinely interested in how we prioritize which trail segments to work on. And maybe there are things that we aren't working on that we really should. So that it would be both an informational aspect. I mean, there's a lot there. If you're going to look at our bike system, there's a lot of components to this. And so what I'm looking at is a fairly comprehensive flyover and then create a space for the community to give input as far as our priorities going forward.
I'd say I especially like the idea of involving Iowa State, since a lot of the infrastructure that I would like to know more about involves them, and to find out where they stand or what their plans are, I think would be important for us to know too.
So it does feel like a concerted outreach might be necessary to get people to take enough interest. There's not like a threat dangling over them or a huge opportunity that we have to figure out how to monetize or something. So, but it could be a very interesting discussion. I agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, the greater the level of public input, I think the more helpful this will be. And so I love the fact that we have an advocacy group that thinks about these things. And so we've worked with them throughout the years and prioritization of projects. And so I think maybe if this is successful, we might think about doing this, maybe not every year, but every 3 or 4 years, just to sort of take the temperature of the community, visit with our partner organizations just to make sure we're prioritizing our construction dollars.
Steve, given the fact that the motion included in advance of the budget preparation for next year, what would the timing be, in your opinion, in order to be, if council gives some direction or wants to put something on a future agenda?
Well, you don't approve the actual projects until January in the CIP when
Right.
it comes to you, but
staff's got to get stuff prepared though.
yeah. Now you've given us a goal of about $1.2 million a year for bike paths, and we actually put in $1.5 million, as I remind Bronwyn all the time. She owes me $300,000 for this. But I don't know if you're going to increase the dollar amount, but we have time. I think you want to wait till everybody gets back in the fall at least. I think. And then there's plenty of time before we make final decisions. So we could do it in, well, I shouldn't say right now, but because I want to get the comprehensive plan done, but September or so. September, I just think. Assuming we get the comprehensive plan, or maybe give us another workshop, the second one of the month. But again, we have time.
We've got several topics that are pretty hot right now to work on. So
So even went to October, I think we'd still be okay.
But that would be adequate. That would be adequate time for staff to.
Unless you're going to make a major change in the funding, then I need to know earlier because I have to balance I start putting the financing together. But I think we just want to make sure we get the right priorities. There'll probably never be enough money. It'll probably have to be implemented over time anyway, whatever it is. So it's just correcting or right sizing or right directing the money, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it should be nice to hear from the actual users of our system just to see what they think are the important areas that we could focus our efforts.
But asking the university to come and maybe the county too, that's good because we're all partners. We want a system that links with each other. So if they would participate, it'd be interesting to see what their long-range plans are too.
So those federal ARPA funds, can they be used for bike infrastructure too, or just water, sewer, and broadband?
It's my understanding it's not for bike paths. Now, remember, if the infrastructure bill passes, that may be something.
Oh, right.
That's the next round that's coming.
Thanks.
$6 trillion is coming our way, I think. I think that would qualify, but I don't think the current one.
Right.
Well, I have to take it back. Remember, the first area is where we have lost revenue, and I've got to calculate that for you. And then that amount of money can be used for any city purpose. You have to decide who you're going to reimburse first on that money. There are different funds that were affected, but we might be able to take it out of the lost revenue portion. But that's only about maybe 2 to 3 million out of the 14 million we're calculating now. It's not a major amount, but we might be able to help there.
Just point of clarification is that, Tim, when you talk about the fact of asking people to help us prioritize, probably the only caution would be is that maybe what the public wants to prioritize and what fits well into streets, plans, or connections, or whatever being laid out, seem to have to be balanced with what staff recommends too, I would think. Is that right?
That's always our task, is to balance wants and needs and available resources. I'll just give you one example as a project that I think is interesting. The South Duff expansion project, I did not anticipate when we did that, the impact that would have on the bike trail infrastructure. For me, it was sort of a loss of the Vet Med Trail, which I loved, but we're going to add a terrific bike connection between South 16th, basically up to Lincoln Way. But then when it gets to Lincoln Way, what happens then? Going east and west there's really no sidewalk. There's no bike trail on Lincoln Way. It's very actually dangerous on Lincoln Way, let alone the sidewalks. And going north on Grand, it's again, residential sidewalks until you hit 16th Street. Then you have bike trail from 16th Street all the way to Ada Hayden. So one possibility to consider would be if we worked on developing a bike trail from basically Lincoln Way to 16th Street, that would create a solid northwest corridor that would be amazing. From all the way South 16th, all the way to Hayden, would be amazing. So once again, we're going to have a great trail component, and it's just going to end at a place where there's logically should be other ways to connect, but it's just going to basically end at the intersection of Lincoln Way and Grand. That's an example, I think, if people could see a map and see things, it may affect our priorities. I don't know that. And there are some others I think are interesting, particularly with the possibility of eminent domain, looking at developing further trail connections that we haven't because private property owners have been unwilling to grant us an easement.
How about we vote?
Yep. Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Nothing else. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll just mention is Saturday, there's a big ribbon cutting at Ines Grove. The official title is Miracle Field. So, help me out, Amber. Miracle Field and
Inclusive playground.
all-inclusive playground. Starts at 10 o'clock, and it's a big deal. It's a wonderful addition to our community, and thank you, Amber, for the efforts that you put into it on behalf of those who get the benefit from it. So 10 o'clock, and I think there's going to be go ahead.
Yeah, the actual final Miracle League ball game is at 9 o'clock. So I think we hope everyone will come out and watch the game and then stay for the ribbon cutting.
Very good. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Bye.